All right, folks, I'm going to kick us off. No doubt people will continue to join us. Welcome, and it's a gorgeous day here in Shropshire. I hope it's nice wherever you are as well. It's my great pleasure to tell you that we've got some experts from the project here that will be able to share more information with you today. But before we go into that, before I introduce them, I would just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. We've got 30 minutes for this morning's session, so there's quite a lot to get in. But our intention is to have you on your way no more than a minute or two after 11:30. So please do note that we're recording today's session. So if you do have a challenge with your image on screen, then do feel free, please, to mute your or hide your camera. So that's the first thing to say. The next thing to share is that we really want to invite your questions. So please do ask them. We only request that you do that, though, please, via the Q&A section in the top of your screen. So you should be able to see a question mark and a Q&A. If you click on that button or tap on that button if you're on your smartphone, you should be able to post a question, which will come to about halfway through this morning's session. So a couple of things we're going to do next. I'm going to introduce you to the people who are leading this project. Then they're going to give all of them very, very, very short presentations. And then you'll have your opportunity to ask questions. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Dr. Marie Kirby, first of all.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Marie Kirby. I am a senior lecturer here in animal science at Harper Adams University, and my interests in this project relate to more precision use of nutrients from slurries to reduce the environmental impact of slurry management and to try and generate new revenue streams for livestock farmers by selling any excess nutrients they might have over to the arable areas.
Thank you very much, Marie. I'm going to take us now to Duarte, who is the technical lead at ElentecBio.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. My name is Duarte Tito. I'm technical director of ElentecBio, and my focus on this project is developing our electrocoagulation technology and bring it into sort of commercialization in other applications, namely here to finish developing our product into a full commercial plant in the processing of slurry to treat it and fraction it into phosphate, nitrogen, and water fractions.
Thank you very much, Duarte. And lastly, over to you, please, Jane, CEO at ElentecBio.
Hi, everyone. As Alex just said, I lead ElentecBio. And we've been working with Harper Adams for some years now, and our interest in this project is to continue that work together and to provide solutions for farmers that work consistently and at scale to help your businesses and to help my business grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. So what I'm going to do next, folks, is take us right in to the presentation part of this morning's session. So I'm going to hand straight back to Marie Kirby, who is going to lead the first presentation this morning.
Thank you, Alex. So today, to set some context of what we're doing as part of this research. Alex, if you wouldn't mind skipping on to slide 2, that'd be great. Thank you. Yes. We've been working with ElentecBio for a number of years now, taking their established technology for a different wastewater stream, but looking to investigate it for a higher organic matter waste stream, so digestates, animal slurries, for example. And around this time, farming rules for water were starting to be discussed. Now, farming rules for water would limit the amount of phosphorus application from your slurry that you could apply depending on the P indice of the soil. So if you had a soil index of 3 or above, we would be limited to only applying the amount of phosphorus that growing crop needs when we apply our slurries. to try and reduce that environmental impact of slurry nutrients entering the wider environment. And we were very conscious at the time that farmers didn't have a way of then complying with farming rules for water, whilst either still managing their businesses without significant impact or restricting potential growth of their livestock enterprise going forward. So we wanted to develop on-farm technologies to try and help farmers comply with developing environmental regulations, and also to generate new revenue streams. So could we recover these excess nutrients from our slurries and then sell them to other areas, perhaps the arable industry, for example, that could use these nutrients and reduce their reliance on artificial fertilizers? More widely, we wanted to look at trying to reduce our carbon footprint and the environmental impacts of slurry management on farm, and to help then improve UK food security by reducing our reliance on artificial fertilizer use. Alex, could we move on to the next slide, please? So today's presentation runs through some of the main findings of our first project that we conducted, which was a feasibility study, and the current industrial scale project that we are running here at Harper Adams on our 400 head dairy farm. And I'll hand over to Duarte.
Thank you very much, Marie. So as Marie alluded to, I mean, our role in this project is really developing an on-farm solution. So our approach to it is use our platform technology, electrocoagulation, that we've used and tested and are commercializing in other sectors, and implement it here with a view to achieve what this sort of process diagram is outlining. So can we take raw slurry through our process and divide it into those three fractions there? And the short answer is yes. So as Marie mentioned, we've done a feasibility study that demonstrated that. And where we are right now is deploying the technology at scale at Harper Adams, as probably most of you or all of you know, who runs a commercial scale dairy farm. And the idea being, over the course of this project, operate the technology in anger to develop all the specific operational data to bring the project to full commercialization. So thank you very much. Perfect timing, Alex. So this is a modular technology. And what we're trying to show here is that we can achieve scale up and configuration to particular plant requirements or site requirements. So in this case, farms, by playing with a combination of modules, and how many of each module we put in a specific site, either to tweak the plant operation to that site's requirements, or to scale up or to scale down. So if we move to the next slide, please, Alex, you can see photos of the plant at Harper Adams on the two right-hand side photos. I mean, apologies, it's not very easy to have exciting photos of a container, but that's the idea. You can see there on the bottom right, the equipment or the containers at Harper's site. On the top photo from one of the containers and modules inside the container, and there on the bottom left, the modules looking pretty and clean in our workshop before deployment. But the idea again is to illustrate this concept of modularity and how we can mix and match and combine modules to suit a site. Finally, if we move into the details of the process diagram itself, Alex, please, next slide. What we're trying to achieve here is, starting from the left and to the right, take the slurry as received by the slurry management unit at Harper. So the slurry pit, that first circle on the left-hand side, and we take it through the various process steps. A lot of it is really to do with managing solids loading, so different screening or filtration steps. We go through that easy step, so that's our bespoke innovative step. The idea is that is what enables us to selectively capture the soluble phosphorus that is in solution. And once we take it through that fine filtration step, we achieve that nutrient separation. So that green box at the bottom, what we're calling there the easy sludge, is that phosphorus fraction. So a slurry-like material around twice the concentration in terms of dry matter than your original slurry, which will hold 98, 99% of the P, which will also hold some N. The N-rich effluent, so the filtered output of that step, is a suspended solids-free liquid, which is dilute in nitrogen. So to finish the process, we run that through off-the-shelf standard reverse osmosis with a view of achieving a concentrated nitrogen fraction, so that dark orange or light brown box at the bottom right, and extracting clean water, which then, depending on its quality, and Jane will come to that, will have a particular uses. So either safe discharge or reuse at site. And it's the extraction of that water fraction that brings that volume reduction for slurry management. But essentially, this concept that slurry comes in at the beginning of the process and gets separated into three discrete fractions: a phosphorus fraction, a nitrogen fraction, and clean water. Over to you, Jane.
Thanks, Duart. Can I have the next slide, please? So in addition to the technological process and progress that Duart and Marie are pushing forward with at Harper Adams, we also have the ongoing engagement with how this is going to work in practice and how we're going to actually be able to commercialize and make this technology available to individual farmers. And the view is that we continue our ongoing engagement with the Environment Agency to ensure that the technology and its use on farm is compliant with all regulations. So there's no point solving one problem of pollution and bringing other problems to the farmers. This slide just gives you an indication of where our current understanding of the likely requirements for permitting for both our process and also for that second step in terms of that nutrient recovery and possible sort of upcycling of that to sell to others. And we're looking to see how best we can support adoption of our technology in the most cost-effective way for farmers and provide options for onward use of the separated nutrients through this engagement. And this just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of where we're up to at the moment with our thinking and how that's likely to develop over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Next slide, please, Alex. We then, that permitting understanding of the permits that are required is part of that larger commercial development that's running alongside the technical optimization and process development that Duart and Marie are undertaking at Harper. And what we've done so far is to look at developing a proposal for 3 further units for beta testing and deployment at separate farms. And this will provide an opportunity for investors to be part of the commercialization process for this technology, and that will entitle those investors at that point to have a shareholding in the joint venture business that we will be setting up to commercialize this. And we're also looking at recruitment of distribution partners and manufacturing partners, because we're a very small business and we do bespoke manufacture alongside our fabrication partners, but obviously once you start to go into full commercial production, you get both economies of scale and discounts that enable you to get a much better view of the types of prices that we would be able to actually provide this technology at, and also the consistency of production compared to a research-based approach there. So we're also considering how best could we use this technology for smaller farms, and so we're looking at developing in a slightly slower time a mobile system that would serve clusters of units, units being farmed, to actually be able to provide this solution where currently it would be uneconomical for them to do so. And there's also some flexibility in terms of some of the farmers that we've been talking to have different requirements. So some are very, very keen on reducing their overall slurry amounts. Some are very, very keen on reducing phosphorus. And so we're looking at different solutions that would be possible for different price points for different types of farmers. So I guess my call for action would be anybody who's interested in helping us fund these 3 units, anybody who's interested in coming forwards for future commercialization would be really interested to speak to them. Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Wonderful. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Jane. I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a second, because anybody who's interested in the product will want and the project, I should say, will want to scan that QR code or visit the website for a bit more information. But this is now we go to the exciting part, and thank you to all 3 of you for your presentations, because now I'm going to invite the people joining us this morning to ask some questions. So in no particular order, I'm going to dive straight on into it, if I may. And first of all, I'm going to direct this question to you, Marie. So thinking about crop availability of the recovered fractions, can you help us better understand a little bit about that?
Sure. As part of the first project, we did a 4-cut grass experiment to look at the bioavailability of those recovered fractions. We saw that our recovered phosphorus nitrogen fractions did outperform even the artificial fertilizer treatments, both in total dry matter that was generated, fresh weight, metabolizable energy. So we're going to expand on that as part of the new project. We're going to undertake a range of crop trials, both on grass and wheat. We're also going to look at the impact of nutrient leaching of these recovered fertilizers compared to current slurry management practices and artificial fertilizers, and greenhouse gas emissions too.
Thank you, Marie. That's extremely helpful. We got some more questions coming in here. I'm going to go to you, Jane, for the next one, if I may. So would you need permitted development planning for these types of units? And perhaps a sub question there would be a permit from the Environment Agency as well.
So in terms of the planning, that's work in progress at the moment. We've actually got a meeting on Friday with a planning specialist from Harper Adams to unpick that a little bit more. It's possible, but I can't really confirm at the moment. In terms of the permitting to run the units, our current understanding is that we definitely would need an environmental permit to run any post-shred treatment of slurry. So again, that's something that we're working with the Environment Agency to try and get that in a solution set that is going to make it easiest for the farm to actually adopt our technology. So that's a sort of work for the next 12 months, really.
Thank you very much, Jane. I'm going to come to another question we've got in the chat now. So very shortly, I should say, but can I'm looking at you, Duarte, to help us with this next question, please. Can the fractions be remixed for specific P and N levels for specific application?
Yeah, Alex, they absolutely can. So hopefully it came across clearly. At the moment, we're achieving that separation. If you can think back to the process diagram and the green box, the P fraction, at the moment, we are not achieving 100% segregation. What I mean by that is not all N is in the yellow box and not all P is in the green box. So the P is captured by way of particulate. So we are drawing all the P from solution into that sludge-like phosphorus fraction, but all the nitrogen, which is particulate, is also contained there. Then the liquid fraction, the nitrogen fraction, is a quasi-nitrogen only liquid. So absolutely nothing stops you to mix and match those again to your specific needs at site. And one of the key aims for us from process design is to achieve that full partitioning of P and N 100%. So the P fraction is only P and the N fraction is only N. We're not quite there yet, but there's absolutely no reason why one can't just mix N back into the P fraction to target specific composition and use.
Thank you, Dwight. I'm going to stay with you if I may. I just want to let Emily know that we will come to your question in just 1 second, but have a question from Jonathan here. Sticking with you, Dwight, what dry matter content can be expected from the sludge and liquid portions? And the reason for asking relates to storage required for the sludge and considerations for type of suitable spreading equipment.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at the moment, we've only operated at Harper. Typically, the input in terms of dry matter from Harper is anywhere from 4 to 6% dry matter. We are taking that phosphorus material at the moment to 7-8% dry matter. We're actually going to look at driving that harder, but still retain it as a spreadable liquid. Alongside that, particularly for those interested in off-farm export, we're looking into what modular techniques or technologies can we add on to make that P fraction into a cake, so get it into the 20-30%, so that could be cost effectively transported off-farm. The nitrogen fraction is a liquid. It's virtually a solid, a suspended solid, so a particulate-free liquid. So there's no suspended solids in it at all. In terms of, I think that question is alluding to sort of what slurry storage saving and volumes reductions can be achieved. A lot of that slurry, that volume reduction is going to be achieved by how much water can be drawn out of the system, either to safely discharge or reuse. Our numbers at the moment is a volume reduction of slurry coming in of 30 to 50%, depending on how the process can be driven. And again, our data is based at Harper's slurry, and we know for a fact that there's plenty of variation within that. But I think these are reasonable guiding figures.
Thank you, Dwight. I'm perhaps looking to any one of you for the next question, but are you in, or are we in communication with DEFRA in regard to getting farmers grants on this in the future? Jane, I think I saw a hand from you there.
Yeah. So this is actually something that I've put in place this week. Not at this current time speaking directly to DEFRA, but I've just put a query into Innovate Business Connect on how I would get this technology put onto the list of approved equipment for future use on the Farmers Grant.
Thank you, Jane. We've got a couple of questions about ammonia and emissions, so I'd like you to think about that. But before we do, I'm going to come to Jane's question about the poultry industry and what might be applicable there for poultry manure as part of this process.
Jane, you might want to comment on that, but from a technical perspective, we are very aware of it. We have not run poultry litter through the system yet. We've had various farmers approaching us for that and interested. We are interested in doing that. It is a different beast, excuse my language, because the phosphorus content is very high and the solids content is high. We think there will be a solution coming out of this, but we don't have process data yet to report.
And I'd like to add to that we've currently are waiting until Friday to find out. We've applied for an Innovate UK DEFRA grant application to do precisely this in terms of setting up our system on AD, so anaerobic digestate from poultry. that's a very, very competitive process. So we think it's indeed likely that we won't get that grant without being negative about it. But we will be potentially, if we can't get this through grant support, then we will probably be putting a proposal together for private funding to see whether we can actually develop this application once we get a little bit further along with the dairy application.
Thank you, Jane. We'll come on to that ammonia question that I promised in a second. So perhaps it might be Marie or maybe Duarte that might give consideration to that. But in the meantime, on the subject of storage volume, Bryn says that under the MVZ regs, slurry separators don't count in England towards the 5-month capacity figure, but it does count in Wales. Will you be looking at this with the EA if it can be proven? A consistent reduction in volume to allow this process to count towards storage figures?
Yes, we will.
There we are. Very good. Thank you, Jane. Who would like to take the question about ammonia emissions? Marie, please.
So we have been tracking ammonium throughout the process anyway, as part of the previous project and this project. What we would like to do as part of the current project is look at those gaseous emissions during storage of the concentrated nutrient fractions and try and quantify that, because if we are dewatering perhaps up to 50% of the slurry volume for storage, we're then taking some of that excess nutrients for export. Overall, the total amount of concentrated nitrogen fraction would be considerably less to be stored and reused on farm. And we would like to try and quantify that as part of the project. We're looking at greenhouse gas emissions as well as, but also ammonia as part of that story too.
Thank you, Marie. Now, listen, I'm really conscious we've only got a couple of minutes remaining. With the group's permission, we might allow ourselves to run a minute or two over, but we can't do anything more than that. But these questions are coming in thick and fast. So if I could invite the panelists to keep their answers nice and short for the next couple of questions so we can get them in. Have you considered the energy value of the sludge created for export off farm and use at anaerobic digestion facilities, or the use of these units at AD plants for digestate nutrient management?
If I can take that, we're definitely looking at the latter part of that. So working with AD, our process performance in terms of pea removal with digestates is variable. We have that linked to basically the feedstock going into digestate does impact on our ability to extract that pea. We've not looked specifically at what's the energy value in that fraction that potentially go off farm. But I guess from our perspective, our product would still be trying to produce as concentrated a pea fraction as possible. And then if it's exported off farm to be applied directly to soil or to then feed an AD plant, you know, that's entirely up to the end user.
But we have, just to chip in, Duarte, there, but we have with other partners considered other alternatives than AD in terms of stabilizing the nutrients within those fractions, aren't we? That's in an early stage though, so we haven't got anywhere near as far as we have with the process here.
Thank you, Jane. We've got time just for one last question, and this is a question related to storage again, please. So this might be a question for you, Duarte. What would farmers need an additional store for the conical tank? And what size would this need to be? For example, 70% of the volume of the slurry store.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the assumption we have at the moment is that water fraction is either directly discharged or directly used. So you may or may not have a need to store that. That nitrogen fraction would definitely need an amount of storage. So the way at the moment we envisage this is that you would need some storage, or you could possibly use the existing storage to retain that P fraction, and you need extra storage to retain the separate nitrogen fraction. And we at the moment are considering it in a modular approach, so get standalone tanks in sort of 20-30 cubic meter sort of sizes, and you could have them side by side storing those fractions. Again, I know the short answer is yes, you need additional storage, but you're not storing more volumes. It's just you need to store it separately. The precise needs will very much depend on the scale of the operation and the circumstances of any given farm.
Thank you very much, Duarte. I'm afraid, folks, I'm going to have to call this to a halt this morning. I would invite you, please, I'm just going to very quickly share my screen again so that you can just grab a quick shot with your phones of that QR code that takes you to the ElentecBioAg.com site for more information. Equally, I know my good colleagues here in Duarte, Jane and Marie and Anna are very happy to take your queries via email as well. But the best port of call, please, is via that link that you see on your screen right now. So I want to say on behalf of the whole group, an enormous thank you to all of you for joining us this morning for this very quick and useful webinar. Do please stay in touch, keep watching the project. There'll be lots of opportunities to engage. We really want you to engage. We want you to be part of this. So do please stay in touch. But all that remains for me to say is thank you again for coming this morning, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.